On May 27, 1997, the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, New Mexico, received a call from a gentleman in Oklahoma who had just found out that his dad was stationed here at Roswell as a military policeman in 1947. He had a piece of metal that he had obtained at the crash site, which no one knew about all these years, that he showed to his son. He told his son that people would kill over that piece of metal. So the son was very concerned about having it. He told us that his dad had been out at the crash site. I had the opportunity to talk to the dad on the telephone, took 5 pages of notes. He said he was at the crash site. He picked up this piece of metal the size of $50. You crumble it up, it opens back up in 3 to 5 seconds without creases or showing signs of bending. He said he guarded the ambulances, bringing the bodies into the base hospital. He said his orders were to shoot anybody that got close to the ambulance. That meant shoot Americans. This man was discharged at Fort Sill, Oklahoma in the late 1940s, debriefed, and told if he ever talked about this, he'd never see the sun come up the next morning. So I made arrangements to go to Oklahoma to meet him, to try to get him on videotape or cassette tape, get the story, get the metal so we could have it tested. I chose to drive to Oklahoma rather than fly because I didn't want to take a chance of being scanned, go through X-ray at the airport and possibly lose the metal. When I got there, I contacted the son and was told by a girl that answered the phone that he was out of town on an emergency. I wasn't comfortable with that because we had prearranged everything and he had not called me back. So Saturday I laid around at the hotel all day, and I called at 9:30, at noon, and at 2 p.m. Each time I got a recording. I left my phone number at the motel where I could be reached, and by about 2:30 I figured I'd been hoaxed. It was a wasted trip. At 3:30 the phone rang and a woman said to meet her and Ed at a Denny's restaurant at 7 o'clock. So I went to Denny's restaurant about 10 minutes till 7. I found a table, I sat down, a man and woman came in, fitting the clothing description I had been given of a man in a dark suit and a woman in a light green dress. He said, "Are you Dennis?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Let's sit down and talk." The very first thing out of his mouth was, "The gentleman you plan on meeting will not be at this meeting." He then informed me that they were special agents of the United States Air Force OSI office out of Dallas, Texas. They answered directly to Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. OSI of the Air Force is Office of Special Investigation. I said, "How'd you know I was coming over here?" He looked at me, he said, "We knew Monday you'd be here Friday." I said, "Is my phone tapped at my apartment?" He smiled and said, "You know how we do business." I spent 3.5 hours with these two people at that Denny's restaurant. They had a lot of knowledge about the Roswell incident. He said the Roswell incident did happen. There were extraterrestrials involved. We talked about Area 51. We talked about the cover-up, some of the people that were involved in the investigation over the years. Basically 3.5 hours of discussion about Roswell and UFOs. He had a New Mexico map with him. We took the map out and we put it on the table. We talked about the crash sites. He talked about the craft being picked up on radar in the southeast direction. We talked about the speed and how it disappeared from the radar. After the meeting, I went back to the motel. I looked in my rearview mirror more than normal. When I got to the motel, I got a cassette tape recorder out and I tried to put on tape what I could remember of the 3.5 hour meetings while it was still fresh in my mind. I returned to Roswell the next day, never having seen the father, the son, or obtained the medal. 2 days later, I decided to call over there again because I felt betrayed. We had an agreement, and the son answered the phone very nervous. I told him who I was, why I was calling. He said, "I can't talk, there's someone here." About that time, another voice came on the phone. Turned out to be another agent, still in Oklahoma. Kept him on the phone about 20 minutes. I tried again July and September to contact the son. December 26th, day after Christmas, I called Oklahoma. A woman answered the phone who I believe was either one of the agents I had met with or the girl I talked to on the telephone. Started putting a lot of pressure on her. And after about 10 minutes, a male voice came on the phone and said, "If you keep messing with the Air Force OSI office, you're barking up the wrong alley." Click. That one I considered a threat. I have not heard anything since then. But if there's anyone out there who was involved in Roswell, I will not be intimidated by the United States Air Force. I want to know what the truth was, and that's all we want on the Roswell incident.